The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
we are now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Wednesday, April 5th, 2015. I am off on my years by a couple, and I'm off on my day. If it's not the date, if it's not the day of the week, if it's not the month, this is a new one for me. I messed up the year. It is Wednesday, April 5th, 2017. Thanks so much for joining us. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you decided to spend some time with us. I want to start by thanking so many new patrons who came to support us in the midst of YouTube. I mean, YouTube has hit every content creator in a very drastic way, very dramatic way. Some of us have lost up to 90%. One colleague I know lost 95% of his regular revenue on last month. And so the supporters, you, the listeners, have gone over to Patreon and become patrons of different shows. And I want to just take a minute to thank Justin B. for becoming a patron, and Curtis J. Thanks for becoming, actually, Curtis Jackson. I know two Curtis Jacksons besides the rapper. But okay, so in Curtis Jackson, Suzanne C., Katrina K., Justin M., IBK. That's what we're going to say. Perry R., Aaron M., and Noah D. It actually keeps going. CT, thank you for becoming a patron. Mark, thank you for becoming a patron. We're going to call you B. We're going to call you B. B, thanks so much for becoming a patron. Christopher V, thank you for becoming a patron. Cynthia C, thank you all so much for becoming a patron. We really can't do this without you, especially now. YouTube has always been a part of our calculus in terms of what we can afford and what we do. But YouTube has really cut it down to basically nothing. Their justification is hilarious in a I don't want to cry, sad kind of way. But the people who have been hurt the most are the independent news creators. Everyone from the top of the totem, like the Young Turks, all the way down to the bottom. We've all been hit because we cover the news and we cover it. We cover the issues that matter. And essentially, YouTube is saying that they just really want to be a cat video place or a prank video, place for that kind of stuff. Something that's so uncontroversial that, no one could possibly get mad until somebody does get mad. And so we're stuck in this place where we actually need you, the listener, the viewer, to subscribe and become patrons as much as possible so that we can continue. So we just hope that you would keep it up. If any of you have considered becoming a patron, please do so. And we really greatly appreciate it. All right, let's jump into the news. We'll be joined later by Michael Graham to discuss a project that he's working on for the Progressive Army. So that'll be coming up at the half-hour mark. And then, as always, you can join the conversation. I definitely want to get your input tonight on the stories that we have coming up. 857-600-0518. Let's talk about what's happening in Syria. So, as we covered on Monday night, there was an attack, a chemical attack. 20 children have been killed. 52 adults were killed. It happened on Tuesday, actually. And so we discussed it. What is difficult about this conversation, just from the human side, the human element, seeing the images, seeing the pictures, seeing the children dying, dead, and putting that in context of an ongoing civil war, that we sit back and we sit on the side and we decide whether or not it's something that we should get involved with in the first place. And that seems to be the debate on the American side of the conversation. Should we get involved anyway? And from any perspective, from any angle. Of course, there's the political considerations, and we'll discuss that in a minute. But whenever we talk about Syria, we have very loud voices who shout that there should be no intervention whatsoever of any kind. But and as much as I appreciate that sentiment, it's when you see occasions like this, when you see incidents like this that happen, and you ask yourself, who has a responsibility to intervene and stop this? We've answered it really over the last, I think 2011 is when, or at least the Arab Spring Civil War, possibly around this. So we've answered that question for the last 7 years, right? For the last 7 years, we've said a lot, but we've not done a lot. And so we really did not have the political capital, the political will to actually get involved. And so now this has become more of a political struggle in the United States, because where President Obama drew a red line previously, Assad allegedly crossed that red line, and President Obama still chose not to intervene. Now, this is Donald Trump's situation. This is Donald Trump's problem. The first thing Donald Trump does, and I have to point this out, because on yesterday, Donald Trump showed just how irresponsible Donald Trump can be, as usual, per usual. And instead of addressing the issue head on, what he does is he issues a statement essentially saying, yeah, this is bad, what's happening in Syria, but what's really bad is that this is because of the weakness of the Obama administration, because the Obama administration wasn't decisive enough. The Obama administration didn't do anything about this. And so ultimately what happened in Syria on yesterday is the result of President Obama's weakness. So instead of addressing the atrocity, instead of addressing the human loss of life, he instead does what he does best, which is hide behind President Obama. I've never seen a grown man or a grown woman in a position of great responsibility hide and shirk his responsibility every opportunity that he gets. But this is what Donald Trump did. Now, to highlight the hypocrisy of Donald Trump, there are a series of tweets that if you just he's not even careful enough with his lies or with his hypocrisy, because if you simply Google or search Twitter for Donald Trump in Syria and Obama, you'll get this series of tweets back to back showing you exactly his position when President Obama was in charge. He said, again, to our very foolish leader, do not attack Syria. This is September 5th, 2013. If you do, many very bad things. Oh, my God. Many very bad things will happen. And from that fight, the U.S. gets nothing. He goes on to say, President Obama, do not attack Syria. 2 days later, there is no upside and tremendous downside. Save your powder for another and more important day. Where the hell does this guy get his grammar? He went on to say on September 5th, he said also, the only reason President Obama wants to attack Syria is to save face over his very dumb red line statement. Do not attack Syria. Fix the USA. Finally said, we should not attack Syria. But if they make the stupid move to do so, the Arab League, whose members are laughing at us, should pay. So as the, I don't know, the clown in chief, sideline, backseat driver, he was criticizing the possibility of President Obama getting involved in this civil war. Then when he becomes president, instead of addressing the issue, see, this is something that we should not even have to talk about. But as the president of the United States, he issued an official statement from the White House. His press secretary parroted the same comments and essentially, instead of addressing, not essentially, absolutely deflected from his responsibility as the president of the United States to at least condemn Bashar al-Assad. And instead of doing that, on yesterday, he turns around and blames President Obama. Well, the day has changed. John McCain and a litany of other Congress leaders, congressional leaders, senators have spoken out and condemned Donald Trump because he did not unequivocally condemn Bashar al-Assad. And so the day has turned, and here's Donald Trump now. The language has changed dramatically. Tillerson, Secretary of State Tillerson, is saying now that Russia needs to reconsider their ally in Assad. You have the UN ambassador, Nikki Haley, who's now last week said that we're no longer really interested in ousting Assad. Now her language has changed dramatically. And Donald Trump, instead of using this occasion to attack President Obama, who's somewhere on an island writing his book, doesn't really give a damn about what Donald Trump thinks. Finally, he owns up to his responsibility to at least make a statement. Not necessarily to go to war, not necessarily to try to out Bashar al-Assad, but to make a statement in the face of a human rights violation that smacks the entire international community in the face. And so this is what he finally said in a press conference. He said, when you kill innocent children, innocent babies, little babies, that crosses many lines. Nikki Haley, as we stated, this is what she said to the UN Security Council. She said, time and time again, Russia uses the same false narrative to deflect attention from their ally in Damascus. When the United Nations consistently fails in its duties to act collectively, there are times in the life of states that we are all compelled to take our own action, prelude to some type of conflict. And then you have, actually, I think we have a clip, right? We have a clip of Donald Trump when he's being asked about the incident, and this is his response. Listen to Donald Trump.
Before I move on to the king, can I just quickly ask you if the chemical attack crosses a red line for you?
It crossed a lot of lines for me. When you kill innocent children, innocent babies, little babies, with a chemical gas that is so lethal, people were shocked to hear what gas it was. That crosses many, many lines, beyond the red line, many, many lines.
Somebody define red line to Donald Trump, please. That's number one. Number two, he went on to say, I will tell you, it's already happened. That's my attitude towards Syria and Assad. My attitude has changed very much. You're now talking about a whole different level. So in a very clumsy way, the president of the United States realized that this is not something that he can play domestic politics with and try to attack the previous administration. This is actually something that the president of the United States needs to address. How he addresses it, we all can debate that. We're all going to debate that pretty robustly. But we can all agree that the president of the United States, in the face of a chemical attack, a human rights violation that has smacked the international community in the face, this is actually a continuation, right? We've had a lot of arguments over Assad. I've had a lot of tacit Assad sympathizers, right? Who under no circumstances want any type of intervention in the first place. And we let you talk, you call in and we discuss it. So we're going to have that debate. But this is not Assad's first trip to the rodeo with chemical weapons, right? And so this is a continuation of what Assad has been doing. And I want to put this one point here before we move on. This is not to say viva la resistance. Right? This is not to say that we're behind the rebels or we're behind the rebels that once were and no more, and then the rebels that have changed and become Al-Qaeda. We're not saying any of that. What we're saying is that the president of the damn United States of America should be versed enough on the issue to address the issue succinctly and in a meaningful way, and to communicate to the international community that we actually are concerned about this type of violation. Now, what will he do? We're going to have to see. The language has shifted dramatically, right? So last week they were talking about we're no longer interested in ousting Assad. Cool. Well, I mean, let's see how it plays out, right? This happens. This is the very next thing that happens, and now the language has changed dramatically. The question is, what are they going to do about it, and how are they going to go about it? because the last thing that we need is another quagmire. The last thing that we need is to get so entrenched into another war that we can't find our way out. So there's the reason I say that specifically is because Nikki Haley is transmitting in her language that this is something that the United States will try to do on their own. And that would be the greatest folly. Right? She said, when the United Nations consistently fails in its duty to act collectively, there are times in the life of states, individual states, where we are compelled to take our own action. The last thing that we need to do as the United States is to go into Syria, going into Syria alone. But now we have the attention of Syria now has the attention of the president of the United States. And what I'm afraid is going to happen is he's going to shift from being, oh, we can leave Assad alone, to being, let's go in next week and take out Assad. Right. And somewhere between those two extremes has to be a better solution, if there is a solution at all. So we have to keep our eye on President Trump. And now that he's woke and he sees the lines, the many lines, not just red lines, but the many lines that have been crossed. Now we have to see exactly how far he's going to go. All right, let's 857-600-0518. We could talk about this as you call in, and we'll talk about the other stories as well. I definitely want to get your feedback. Let's talk about Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon has been removed from the National Security Council. He should never have been there in the first place, right? I think it's safe to say we can all agree that Steve Bannon should not have been on the National Security Council in the first place. So there was a reconfiguration that took place today. This has not been a good day for Steve Bannon. Not only did he get kicked off the National Security Council, but now, this entire idea of Steve Bannon being the think tank behind the White House is being dismissed in the news media, which means the White House is trying to separate themselves and put some distance between themselves and Steve Bannon. And the most significant move was the promotion of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Marine Corps General Joseph Dunford, and the director of National Intelligence, Dan Coats, to regular attendees of the National Security Council. Those roles had previously been downgraded, according to the Washington Post. And as they were downgraded, Steve Bannon was promoted to be on the National Security Council with no previous experience, no prior experience, no qualifications, no educational background, the only thing he served in the Navy, right? That was the extent of his experience and the justification for him being put on the National Security Council. There's the memorandum that actually clarified this and put this into action, specifies, according to the Washington Post, quote, that Reince Priebus, the White House Chief of Staff, along with Counsel Don McGahn and Budget Director Mick Mulvaney, are invited as attendees to any National Security Council meeting. So is John Eisenberg, the Deputy of Counsel to Trump for National Security, another person who reportedly helped provide Nunes with ammunition for his accusations, close quote, according to the Washington Post. But again, so this is somewhat of an isolation game. Steve Bannon is being isolated from some of the core group. Reince Priebus, who had a position parallel to Steve Bannon. Reince Priebus is going to remain, or is now going to be allowed to be a regular attendee. Steve Bannon has been demoted, and his position that he held has been replaced. And again, this should not have happened in the first place, but it's curious that it's happening now, and it seems to be Donald Trump trying to keep Steve Bannon at bay. Why? It could be the result of Steve Bannon being toxic and Donald Trump finally realizing that Steve Bannon is extremely toxic. That's number one. But it also could be because of Donald Trump's ego, right? Most of the conversation in the national community and the political community was that Steve Bannon was he was the brains. He had the brains out of the two, out of Dumb and Dumber. He was the one with the intelligence, right? The smart one. He was considered to be the Sith behind the background, or the Dick Cheney to George W. Bush. And as this reputation went out, the more people talked about it, Donald Trump heard it because it's not like Donald Trump lives in a hermetically sealed bubble. Donald Trump listens to Fox News every single morning. And so as the internet, and he's obviously on Twitter every single morning. So as commentators, journalists, politicians, and on purpose, many people intentionally try to address Steve Bannon as President Bannon because we all knew Donald Trump would not tolerate that, not for long. And so I think this may be the first salvo in removing Steve Bannon from the position that he holds for the president. And again, this is a good result, possibly because of Donald Trump's ego, but ultimately not having Steve Bannon on the National Security Council, not having someone with white nationalist sympathies, not having someone with anti-Semitic ideologies and thoughts, and not having that type of person on the National Security Council is the best result that we could possibly get at this point. One thing, as I'm talking, I'm reminded of Steve Bannon's worldview, apocalyptic worldview. Steve Bannon has a worldview that can be based on the clash of civilizations theory, but hyper extended, inflamed. I don't really know the word I'm looking for here, but it's magnified by his militant Christian views. His view that the world is ultimately leading to Armageddon, and that our actions are ultimately leading to a great world conflict between the West and between Muslims, the clash of civilizations theory. Removing someone with that type of ideology from the National Security Council, I don't care if it was the result of Donald Trump's ego, is absolutely the best result that we can hope for. 857-600-0518 if you want to join the conversation. We'll take the first caller. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, Ben, this is Nick from Oregon.
Nick, how's it going, man?
Hey, it's going good. First of all, I just want to shout out to the whole audience. Remember to become a patron, show some love to the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Absolutely. Thanks, man. I definitely appreciate it and appreciate your support.
Oh, of course. So I was just wanted to pop in real quick. You don't have to spend too much time on this, but I don't know if you've heard about the DeRay, Nomiki, and kind of Reign of April arguments going on right now.
No, I've been off Twitter working on the studio all day, but I mean, Reign of April, tell me about it. What's going on?
Totally. So essentially just Nomiki kind of put out there today that DeRay kind of has a lot of conflicts of interest, being a correspondent on the DNC transition team, and then, all the endorsements and stuff, and then speaking about the whole Pepsi commercial, like there's a lot of discussion about kind of commercialization of, protesting
movement,
and activism. And so from multiple people talking to Nomiki, the idea is that there's two strains. A, that DeRay's, you've mentioned this before, that, kind of DeRay's neoliberalism, kind of the selling out of things. And then there's another strain that specifically Reign of April talked about, which was about how activists, Black or otherwise, are often expected to be broke or, not expected to take money for, their kind of work. And so I know that while you have an opinion on DeRay's, specific, how he goes about his business, I'm curious about what you think about, that strain where, what's the difference between getting paid for the work that you do as opposed to just selling out the resistance for quick cash? Yeah.
Great question. Almost a tough question. And thanks for the call, man. It's almost a tough question for me because Reign of April is my homegirl. I'm just full disclosure, right? We're just having a conversation. That's my sister from another mister. So even if I disagree with her, I usually don't disagree with her publicly. We go to our DMs and we argue it out there. But I don't think that's actually even relevant in this conversation. But I want to give a full disclosure. The reason I don't think it's relevant is because she's right. In the sense that there are a lot of people who are actively, and this does not necessarily include DeRay. DeRay is a different beast of his own, right? But there are a lot of activists who are damn near homeless and broke. And the thing is that there is going to be money involved in not so much the activism, but the organizations that are built. There are people who have to be hired. There are infrastructures that are going to be built. There's going to be funding that's going to be found. And, you know, the last thing I'm going to do, think about it this way. I'm going to use myself as an example. I'm getting paid now to do commentary every night. Every night I get paid to do that. Now, what does it look like for me to say that someone who is out there doing the work shouldn't get paid? I'm just giving commentary and I get paid. Don't get paid a lot, but I get paid. Probably get paid more soon. But the point is, what kind of disingenuous ass would I be to say that someone who's out there on the front lines should not get paid for their consistent work that they're doing? Now, there's a difference between getting paid for the work that you do and just cashing out on the movement, right? And selling out the movement, right? There are foundations that you can build a foundation, get funding for your foundation. There's all kinds of things that you could do to support yourself. But the McDonaldization of the movement, like the Pepsi commercial, is the best example, right? That's like the extreme example of what could be done when someone wants to cash in on the movement. And that's the best example of slow down, slow your roll. You're really just pimping the movement and you're not really contributing anything to the movement. I think it really boils down to, what are you contributing and what are you receiving? Like, is it commensurate? You know, are you getting paid? You're getting paid $100,000 to go to a protest. There's something wrong there. But I don't really know of anyone who's getting paid anything. Like George Soros is not cutting those checks that much. He's not really cutting those checks at all, as far as I know. I haven't gotten any, but he's not cutting. People are not getting paid like that. But again, I'm going to keep it simple. If people do the work, they should get paid. If people are sacrificing their careers in order to keep a movement going and sustained, there's no reason in the world that we should expect them to be poor just for the sake of, it's like, let's bring it home to something we all can understand on my side of the aisle, right? It's like expecting Bernie Sanders to be poor his entire life simply because he's advocating for socialism or democratic socialism. Right. It's this game that people try to play to say, oh, you're advocating for an egalitarian society. Then how dare you have $100,000 in the bank? Right. And so what it does is it makes people who are less aware of this game, it makes them scramble. Right. It makes them scramble and say, well, maybe I shouldn't make this money. Maybe I shouldn't make. And then they end up unable to do anything effective for the community or for the nation because they're broke. You cannot operate in this capitalistic system that we still have to live in without getting paid. You have to pay your bills. And so if your work is commensurate with what you're getting paid, I've got no problem with you. If your work is activism and you're out there doing the work, how dare I say that you shouldn't get paid, because I'm getting paid just giving commentary almost to your work. Now, when you start getting race car jackets and you're sponsored by Doritos and you're sponsored by Pepsi and you're sponsored by, you're just as bad as Congress, that's a problem. You're cashing out, you're pimping the game, and, for what? I think the best way to summarize it is one by one, individual by individual. We can't make a blanket statement on this. I don't think in any way we can make a blanket statement other than to say, if you do the work, I have absolutely no problem with you getting paid because you're out there doing the work, and I'm here getting paid to comment and give commentary on your work. Granted, I built this, right? There's a difference, right? I built this and YouTube could do the best they can, but they're not going to put me out of business. So that's a little bit different, but I digress. 857-600-0518. Let's keep trucking. I want to know your opinion on that. That's actually a great conversation. I wasn't privy to it. I'm kind of glad I wasn't, because I would have got sucked into it and kind of in a, really discombobulated way, because I'm everywhere on that. Like, I see what Nomiki is saying. I probably would have had no comment on what DeRay had to say, but I agree with what April was saying from what the caller just said, or the reign of April, from what the caller just identified. Caller, you're live on the air. Oh, we lost that caller. Okay. All right. So we'll clear up the lines for the next callers and we'll talk about this story. Donald Trump is so irresponsible. if you're tired of hearing me talk about Donald Trump, then you know, I don't know what to tell you. He's going to be president for the next 4 years. But Donald Trump is so damn irresponsible. He has, without any evidence, without any proof, other than the job that Susan Rice had as the national security advisor, he has suggested to the New York Times that she did something wrong, and that he believes that what she did is going to be huge news for the nation and for the world. And so he has piggybacked on a story, yet another story from Breitbart. This is another story from Breitbart that Donald Trump has picked up and now has entered into the mainstream conversation in the United States without any evidence to support it, other than the fact that Susan Rice served as the national security advisor. And so he said in his conversation with the New York Times, he said, quote, "I think this is going to be the biggest story. It's such an important story for our country and the world. It's one of the big stories of our time." What, Donald Trump? That she had a job and that she did her job. And according to experts, there's nothing that indicates any impropriety. I can't even say it. You know what the hell I'm trying to say at this point. Here's the problem that I have with Donald Trump. He has access to the highest level of intelligence. He can get access from basically to anything that falls underneath the executive branch that does not directly involve him personally, but probably can get information on things that involve him also. But he probably can at least get something more reliable than Breitbart. And instead of relying on the legion of intelligence professionals that he has at his disposal as the chief executive of the United States of America, I mean, the entire Department of Justice answers to him. And instead of doing that, he relies on a story from Breitbart, and he repeats it into the mainstream, implicating someone who, as far as anyone has concrete evidence, was only doing her job. All right, so a little more detail on actually what's going on. Susan Rice said on MSNBC, she said the allegation is that somehow the Obama administration officials utilize intelligence for political purposes. And she said, of course, that's absolutely false. We would expect her to deny the allegation. According to the Washington Post, the intelligence reports obtained by Rice, who served underneath President Barack Obama from 2013 to 2017, were, quote, summaries of monitored conversations primarily between foreign officials discussing the Trump transition, but also in some cases direct contact between members of the Trump team and monitored foreign officials. This is something, first of all, let's take this in two steps. One, did she do something illegal by requesting these names be unmasked? It's directly in her purview, or was in her purview as a national security advisor, to make those types of requests. And there is a paper trail that the current national security advisor or the Department of Justice can get access to see if she did it in a way that's consistent with her responsibilities, or was it something different? And this is again, I said it before, I'll say it again. This is the problem I have. All it would take would be for Donald Trump to request, and I don't know the official language, but to get an audit of her request to have these names unmasked. And the paper trail exists, and they could analyze that directly to find out if there was something done incorrectly or something done with a political agenda. But instead of doing that, he just relies on a story from Breitbart, Mike Cervanich, or whatever the hell his name is. This suggests to me that he has absolutely no desire to find the truth about what happened. He just wants to use this as a political football to deflect from what's going on. And he wants to make this quote, the biggest story. It's such an important story for our country and the world. It's one of the big stories of our time, but not big enough for Donald Trump to ask his own Department of Justice and his new national security advisor to do an audit of what Susan Rice actually did. Instead of doing that, which is one phone call away, he relies on Breitbart.com. If you don't see a problem with that, folks, I don't know what to tell you. You know, if you, I don't have a source that I believe at face value. Some more or less, some more than others, but the Breitbart.com is down there with, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a liberal rag that's comparable. The Daily News Bin or whatever. You know, if I read something on Breitbart.com, you better believe I'm going to click back at least 3-4 links to get back to the original source. And usually when you do that, the stories fall apart. And we have a president of the United States who not only doesn't have to go to Breitbart.com to get this information, he could go to his Department of Justice to get this information, but he's not even aware enough to click through the links to do some investigation himself. But instead, he irresponsibly puts Susan Rice, who's now a private citizen, on the chopping block of the American community, of the national community, all to deflect from his personal problems, all to deflect from the investigation, the ongoing investigation. I don't know what else to tell you about that. 857-600-0518 if you want to join the conversation. Great. So we're at the halfway mark. I want to pull up a colleague of mine. He works with the Progressive Army. He's very dedicated, and he's, let me stop bragging on him. Michael Graham, how are you, man? I think we got him. Do we have him?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, there we go. Whew. All right.
Yeah, sorry. Had you on mute, and I'm wrestling with kids.
Oh, no problem. We won't. Hey, I understand. Yeah. I understand kids, so I'm not going to keep you long. Listen, you came to me a couple of months ago, and you had a brilliant idea, and the idea has actually come to fruition. Tell us about what you're working on.
Okay. Well, overall, it's a project to use book publishing, mostly ebook publishing, to broaden awareness about the progressive movement, and also to help raise money for the progressive movement. I mean, you guys that depend on YouTube income, it just got hammered. You know, a new source of revenue would be amazing. You know, and you know, no type of fundraising is perfect, but this ebook publishing seems to be a good source of revenue and a great way to reach out to people that may not know who you are, right? Because we all seek to find new markets for whatever we're doing. So and the folks on the Progressive Army they're brilliant.
Yeah.
You know, more people need to know about them.
Yeah.
And I think this is another way to reach out to folks. And I guess one of the things I had to be the one to step out, because I guess it was my concept. So
yeah.
I guess it was best for me to step out and see what happens. And so far it's been going pretty good. You know, I'm not going to be a millionaire tomorrow. And the movement's not gonna be funded for the rest of our lives. Yeah. But I mean, it's going much better than anticipated, and I'm really happy about the support we're getting.
So the books are actually out for sale now.
Yeah, they're for sale now. Yeah, it was a long because the article I wrote about Nina kind of spurred me to push things on a little earlier than anticipated. So it's the pre-sale thing was, you know, we lost some steam with the pre-sale thing, but I think it was important for us to get it started because there were so many organizations. I mean, a lot of it's personal. The 6 organizations I chose to, or rather we chose to fund. Yeah. To try to fund. Well, let me near and dear to me.
Let me say a couple things about what you're doing so the audience is extremely clear. So what you've done, you've taken a series of articles, writings from the Progressive Army members, some brand new writings, some old writings, some of our best. You've taken the best of, and you've compiled them into an ebook. And the narrative around the undercurrent that's connecting all these stories really is about Bernie Sanders, his race, and I love your commercial for it because you know what? We should have pulled that up. That wasn't smart on my part. I didn't think about it. David, while we're
that book.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. That one is just me. Those are all Michael Grant because I wanted to, approve to see this, just
the
to
model.
test to see what would happen, right?
Yeah.
Just test the model. And I figure if anybody's head is going to be on chopping block, it's going to be me. But the next book up after this, I'm book from Michael Redwine. The next book up is that book with the compilation, and there's a lot of it, and much of it is based around Bernie and the progressive movement.
Yeah,
because a lot of folks say we shouldn't be relitigating, what happened between Bernie and Hillary and how everything went. But to my mind, this is just me, Michael Grant talking. To my mind, I think we need to talk about who was right and who was wrong.
Well, I mean,
beyond all the Russian.
Listen, as much as I would like to not have to do that, I mean, I'd be a fool to say that it's not happening from both sides, right? It's like I could avoid having that conversation if people didn't constantly throw it in my face the same lies that got us into this situation in the first place. So I no longer apologize about relitigating the primaries because people, they're still doing it from both sides. So don't apologize for it. I mean, speak your piece.
Yeah, the biggest thing is that. When everything shook down and after Hillary lost, I was really petty. I must admit, I had that when we were right hashtag. I was running that thing. Boy, I was running that thing hard. But I kind of calmed down. But now it seems like things have kind of revved back up because Bernie is becoming much more popular because we don't have that DNC and Clinton interference for his message. So he's becoming much more popular. People are hearing it more clearly. And that kind of changes the dynamic. And I think, and those of us who are on Twitter, we see that that's kind of spun up the trolls again. They're like, oh, wait a minute. We look like idiots because this guy was right the whole time. And so they're going into overdrive trying to get back to where Bernie is that racist, sexist dude who lost the primary and nobody put their hand on the scale. They're trying to get back to those days, but the genie's out of the bottle. Yeah, the genie is way out of the bottle.
And the other thing I like about
the movement back in the bottle.
So the other thing that because we've talked quite a bit about this project and some of your plans. So I want people to be sure that this is a holistic project as well, right? This is not just one project, one book that relitigates the primary, but you also are putting out books, ebooks that are covering the future of the progressive movement and where do we go from here? What's next? How do we find solidarity? All those things that you described to me. So I just want to encourage the audience to know that, you're going to be able to find something that really, I'm still a church word here, Michael, that edifies the progressive body. So you're going to find what you need.
Edify, clarify, unify.
Oh, you went to somebody's church last week, man. I know you did. All right. So Mike, tell everybody how they can get, give us a link. You have a good link that they can go to.
You know what? I wasn't prepared for this. Well, we got progressiveuplift.com. That's going to be our new blog website. It's not going to be anything super big, but it'll be a place for folks to find out what's going on with this project. Yeah. And just go there, and it's nothing there, but right now it's just a landing page. Just plug in your information, your email address, and your name, and as we grow, we'll get more information out. And of course, we'll get more information out through the Progressive Army. And as Ben said, this is a broad thing. We're casting. We're putting more than one set of eggs in one set of baskets, right?
You were getting ready to say you're casting a lot of fish on the water. You've been to too many churches, man.
Go ahead. Too much church. I haven't been in a long time, but we're trying to put our hands up because there's a lot of writers in the Progressive Army. There's a lot of writers that are coming in from the outside. They're like, yeah, I can do this, and that last article has fired up a lot of people. Like, hey, if I can't do anything else but write, if I can use that writing to raise money for this movement, or use that writing to edify and clarify our movement to other people, that's important. Yeah. That has value.
Mike,
right? So, and we're go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. Actually, I want you to get the last word real quick because we actually just got your video. We got the video uploaded. So we're going to play your commercial here. But tell everyone how to get up with you, and then we'll play the commercial.
Yeah, hit me on Twitter, BLUP Blup Front. Michael Graham on Twitter. Just hit me up there, DM me, whatever, and we'll talk. If you're a writer, come see me.
Yeah.
Right. If you whatever you can do, writing, graphics, admin, whatever it is, you think you have a role you can play in this, just let me know.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much, man.
All right. Thank you very much. Talk to y'all soon.
Absolutely. And here's that. I really enjoyed this clip. Here, let's take a look at that. This guy had the answers. It's time to listen to folks who knew. Our Bernie Sanders, Amazon.com. I liked it. I thought there was words in there, so I narrated for you. All right, check it out. And you know what? The reason I have him on here is because he's doing this for the Progressive Army. He built all of this out, and you know, it's my old pastor said, it's a sad dog that doesn't wag his own tail, right? So shout out to Michael Graham, all the work, all the efforts you're doing, man. Thanks so much for what you're doing, and I hope you're very successful with it. Let's take this caller. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question?
Hi, Ben. This is Vita. How are you?
Doing good, Vita. How's it going?
Okay, and I think that's a very good idea because it's not so much, it's about reaching other people. Someone might go on Amazon and get that's not educated with the information, so that gives them some kind of strategy and some kind of foundation. So I think that's a good idea. I'm going to go buy one.
Awesome.
Because I think that's a good idea. And also, I thought about what you were saying about Trump, and I was just cracking up, trying to keep a straight face, because I thought about in Congress, right, how they didn't spend any time gathering information to vet the Trump people that he was appointing.
Yeah.
They didn't even have all the documentation, and they had them in a hearing.
Yeah.
So that tells you a lot. So I just thought about that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like they have access to any. I mean, they know where the aliens are buried, right? If we want to go to the just be hilarious extreme, he knows where Area 51 really is, if it exists. And instead of getting that intelligence, he goes to Breitbart.com. I mean, who the hell? What? Go ahead, Vita.
They could have called in Hillary, because Hillary know her and Pedersen.
They know where the bodies are buried. Yeah.
and then I thought about the newspapers, right? Mm-hmm. I said, then you print the crazy stuff that Trump is saying, and that's not fake news. And then you want to censor people pass the bills about the consumer protection, so we can have our privacy and the internet, so we can have taken down people's advertising and ability to make a living for those that might not even have a job. Yeah. And this is what we get in society. They're crazy.
Vita, thanks so much for the call. It's always great talking to you.
All right, have a good day, Ben.
You too.
I like your beard.
I was just thinking I gotta go get it shaved, cleaned up. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. All right. Let's shift gears. And I want to talk about a story that I think is, at least for right now, extremely amazing news. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit, according to the Washington Post, last night they ruled that workers may not be fired for their sexual orientation. This is a huge deal when you consider there are at least 28 states in the United States that do not have any protections on the law for the LGBTQ community. So this is a huge deal. This is the highest, the Seventh Court Circuit. They're the highest court in the country to find that the 1964 Civil Rights Act, quote, protects gays from workplace discrimination, according to the Washington Post. And so this is the Chicago-based appeals court. They found in a case dealing with the with the plaintiff in this case, Kimberly Hively, was improperly passed over for a full-time job at Ivy Tech Community College in South Bend, Indiana, because she was a lesbian. The they went on to say, quote, while the Civil Rights Act does not explicitly prohibit discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation, it bars sex discrimination. And so the court concluded that the college engaged in sex discrimination by stereotyping Hively based on her gender. Did I say agenda? I meant gender. Thank you. At least I heard myself say it wrong. But forget about me. This is a great story. It's not over. It's not over yet because the Atlanta-based appellate court ruled pretty much the exact opposite. They interpreted Title VII of the Civil Rights Act much more narrowly. They found that sexual orientation was not protected, was not a protected class under that law. And so now you have two competing decisions, which ultimately means the Supreme Court is going to have to weigh in on whether or not the Civil Rights Act of 1964 protects people based on their sexual orientation. This would not be so much of an issue if on a state by state level, states protected LGBTQIA Americans from discrimination based on their orientation or their gender identification. But you have states that are so hell-bent on their worldview and imposing that worldview on their community that they have left people open to actual discrimination. Like you can be denied a job or fired because you're gay or you're lesbian. And I think when you put it in very simple terms like that, anyone who's reasonable would agree that that should not be tolerated in the United States. But here we are on this side of the argument, and it's getting ready to go to the Supreme Court, which is why Neil Gorsuch's confirmation, if it happens, is so significant. Because Gorsuch is clearly going to side with the Atlanta-based appeals court, basically saying that the law does not, Gorsuch is an originalist. He's a strict and he has a very strict view of not interpreting the law, but carrying out the law. I digress. But the point is that this is a major decision that's going to go all the way to the Supreme Court. As it stands right now, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit has made it possible because they have found quite opposite of what the Atlanta-based the 11th Circuit in Atlanta found, that the 1964 Civil Rights Act actually does protect people based on their sexual orientation. Here's a story that doesn't surprise me one bit. It does surprise me because I actually get insurance from these people. Geico. We have evidence that, and I'm actually trying to go back to the original source. I don't have the original source in front of me. But there is I want to call it a hood tax. There's a hood tax that happens too often in the black community where you will pay more for insurance. You will pay more just going to Walmart. I actually experienced this myself. You can go to a Walmart. I was doing a collection of frames to do a thing that I was doing, and I had to go to 5 Walmarts to get enough frames. Went to the black community, went to the white community, they exist, right? And paid more in the black community than I did in the white communities, Walmart. And when I called in to Walmart headquarters or district headquarters or whatever, they expressly said that it's a tax. It's basically a tax because they have to pay more for security. They have to pay for all these other costs. This is just one example. This is just one example of how people in impoverished and marginalized community far too often find themselves paying a poverty tax. I want to pull up 2 images on your screen so that you can see it for yourself. On the first image, you see a graph of Geico's rates in Missouri. And you see on the left axis, on the vertical axis, you see liability premiums for a 30-year-old who is a safe driver. The pink line represents what you would pay if you're a minority. The blue line represents what you would pay if you were white. Clearly, a discrepancy. But it didn't stop there. If you go to the next image, you can see a similar trend for results of the study in Illinois. And you can see the same axis on the left, liability premiums for a 30-year-old safe driver. So we're not talking about any difference in age, and we're not talking about any difference in what's on their driving record, right? This is a scientific study. So they have a control. And then you see that even controlled for age and controlled for driving experience or whether or not you're a safe driver, minorities, people of color usually pay more than white drivers who are the same age and the same level of driving. There was here in Boston an incident, a citywide incident where Amazon was looking to do same-day delivery throughout the city of Boston, Boston proper, but they completely avoided Roxbury, which is dead smack in the middle of Boston. And so for you to get a same-day delivery, you could live to the north, to the south, to the east, to the west of Roxbury and get same-day delivery, but you couldn't get it if you lived in Roxbury. $5 of monopoly money for anyone who could tell me what you think the predominant race is of people living in Roxbury, Massachusetts. I'm not, I guess I can't even really be upset about this, right? As much as I probably could want to rant over this, this is not a surprise. This is a very consistent thing that has happened for a very long time in every facet of life. Everything from the interest rates that you can get at your bank to your ability to get a mortgage in the first place, to redlining, to your schools, to the types of classes you can get in your schools, to get offered at your schools. And then if you go to a mixed school where it's a diverse school, then you have situations where minority students are not afforded the same classes as their white counterparts at the same damn school. And it's often such a subtle thing that it's very difficult to root out or even to discover, except for when you finally find out that this has been happening all of this time. So I'm actually kind of curious. I want to go back to Florida. Hell, I guess I should just look in Boston, right? See my premiums and compare them to Max. Let's check our premiums. We should do that. Like, well, you don't drive a car right now, so you don't have that. I'm really curious. How far does this go? Like, I haven't gotten a ticket in forever. I wonder if I'm paying more right now, Geico. Matter of fact, I'm going to call you guys after the show. 857-600-0518. Instead of talking about it, I'm just going to call you guys after the show and see, start doing some investigation on that for myself. All right, one last story. Oh, barely have enough time for this. Last story of the night, Bill O'Reilly is an ass. And when you're an ass, you get treated like an ass. He's lost 30 sponsors, 30 advertising companies. And when we're done with the show, I'm going to dance a jig. Hopefully he loses enough. Okay, I was going to cut the show there, but all right, let me do it for real. Listen, I don't necessarily participate. I don't care about the game itself. I don't necessarily participate in, I don't like this person, so let me attack their advertisers. Clearly, for obvious reasons. I don't want people to attack my advertisers. But you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Back in 2002, I remember Bill O'Reilly trying to get Ludacris, not trying, but actually got Ludacris fired from an endorsement deal he had with Pepsi. Bill O'Reilly has done this for years. Bill O'Reilly knows how to attack people, how to silence people. You attack their advertisers. You attack the people who are paying money for them. Bill O'Reilly has now been caught up in a $13 million settlement with women from Fox News because of allegations of sexual harassment. Then Bill O'Reilly, of course, last week got caught up in the issue of talking about Maxine Waters' hair, making a joke about her hair. And actually, it corresponds with the timing of all of his sponsors starting to drop off. So this has been a bad week for Bill O'Reilly. And you know what? Good for him, because he has spent the majority of his career trying to hurt marginalized communities, trying to hurt black people, trying to hurt progressive voices, doing everything he can, including attacking the advertising companies, the endorsement deals of people he did not like. And so now he's on the receiving end of it. And, well, we will not shed a single tear if he loses it all. Have a good night, folks.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. It's Ben Dixon! If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.